Welcome back, everyone. I'm Michael Farrar from DSPORT magazine, and joining me today is Alan Viato from SPARCO, and we're going to learn a lot about seats. There's new technology being used in seats out there, but let me first start out, Alan, why would somebody think about changing from the OEM seat to an aftermarket seat?
That's actually a good question. I think there's a couple advantages of going to a competition seat such as this one here. The first advantage is actually safety. So this is going to be a much safer seat than your factory seat. So this is all of our competition seats are FIA approved, which means they've been sled tested.
Now, sled test, so there's literally a weight put in it and a sled and it's driven up against something, or how does that work?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
for this test, there's actually like a dummy or there's a weight in it.
Okay.
And then it's done through the sled, and then they take and look over the seat and obviously check to see if it passes the test. But there's other tests where there's a super high G load. So we have some seats that are rated up to like 70 Gs. So it's a really high FIA test. And that one is done by a hydraulic arm. So it actually pushes on the seat, deflects it, and that simulates like a 70 G hit. And then as it comes back, the carbon fiber, typically of what it's made of, needs to be no cracks, no visible damage to the seat. So, yeah.
So if you guys are out there and you have any seat questions, we are open with Q&A. Please get your questions in while we have Alan here. Now, QRT technology, that's something you guys debuted, I think, a year or two ago. How long was that?
Yeah, I think it was 2018.
Okay.
So we developed a new technology called QRT, which stands for Quick Resin Transfer.
Mm-hmm.
What it is, the advantage of this is that you're getting a fiberglass seat at the cost of a fiberglass seat, but close to the weight of a carbon fiber seat.
Gotcha.
So with this technology, we're saving up to about 30% versus a traditional fiberglass.
Okay, so,
yeah.
Okay, question.
What kind of certification does a bucket seat need to meet?
Well, it depends on what you're racing, but for the most part, either club racing or track days, they require the FIA 8858 rating, which is what all of our competition seats on our site are rated at. There is a higher rating, which is used only typically for WRC and some sports car racing, like GT4 sports car racing. And that's that seat I was telling you about that requires like a 70 G load test on it. So.
Now, you just came out with, I believe it's a new product, the street performance version of this?
Yes. So
I think it's there.
yeah. So it's essentially the same seat as the QRTR that we just showed, but it is trimmed in full leather and Alcantara. So the purpose of this seat is it's really aimed at the track day guys that have like a nicer interior, that want to keep that nicer interior look, but it's still FIA legal, and it obviously looks really sharp.
Now, with seats, I'm not too clear on this. With FIA, is there a certain expiration period or something, or can they be recertified? How does that all work?
Yeah, so seats are a little weird because certain sanctioning bodies require a seat to be within 5 years of manufacture. So there's really no expiration, because even the FIA basically says this is the date it was manufactured. So unlike harnesses, where there's actually degrading of the nylon, that's the main reason why people will need to recertify or change the belts every 2 to 5 years, depending on the rating. With seats, there really isn't no degradation. So the reality is, it's really up to your sanctioning body if they're going to allow a seat longer than 5 years.
Okay, we got a question out there.
Is a bucket seat by itself safe? Do you need a harness with that?
It depends, because it depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing full racing and you're going to have a harness, obviously you would want a roll bar to mount the harness onto. But a bucket seat is still safe, even used with a 3-point belt. Now, you have to mount it correctly, though. So the big thing is, when you're mounting a 3-point belt, it needs to go through the harness slots here. Mainly because on a 3-point belt, the lap portion needs to be on your hips. So that's the biggest thing that you want to keep.
You don't want that coming all the way up.
Yeah,
here.
you don't want to come over, because unless you're a bigger person and it's going directly on your hips, but typically you want to route it through the harness guides.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, is there anything visually different about that QRT technology, or how is it actually that you're able to save so much weight? It has something to do with the manufacturing part of it, right?
Exactly. So it's a patented process that we've done, and not to get too technical about it, but essentially when you're doing fiberglass, a typical fiberglass layup is the fiberglass is like a dry material, and then you'll have the technician come in with the resin, pour the resin in, and kind of just brush it in, and that's basically how you do typical fiberglass. The way we do our fiberglass, it's almost similar to how we treat our carbon fiber seats, where there's I can't really get too technical about it, but essentially we really control the amount of resin that goes into the shell. That's
so you get a much higher ratio of fiberglass to resin. It becomes a lot stronger.
Correct.
And that way you've got something that's on the level of the strength, really close to the strength of the carbon fiber, and getting the weight saving, but getting the cost savings because you don't have to go with carbon fiber.
Exactly. Yeah. So the weight penalty on a fiberglass seat is typically the resin. So if we're able to control the amount of resin and still be really strong, that's the key, and that's where we've come up with that patented process. So.
Gotcha. Question out there.
Yeah, have a guy wondering what a Hans device does.
Well, Hans device protects you. It latches on your shoulders, and it protects your head movement from going forwards. Basically, it's like a forward impact. Now, we have seats that have the halos on top, and that's really to catch you from going from a lateral movement. So that's the basics of a Hans device.
Now, one of the things that I like about these seats that you have is, like you said, the weight saving. So a typical QRT, like we saw here, what is that weight generally?
Well, what's great about the QRT it is the lightest, what we call large size seat on the market. So it's just under 16 pounds for a large seat. And when I say large, it actually means it can fit somebody with like a 36-inch waist really comfortably. So,
and a 38 or 40 can squeeze their butt in there?
Depending on the body type. Yes, you can.
Gotcha. And so cost-wise, that seat there, how does that compare to what, say, the Evo carbon fiber used to cost?
Well, the old Evo carbon fiber probably cost, I think it used to be around $2,000 to $2,500 depending on the model.
Gotcha.
That was our old carbon technology, but yes, that was the typical cost of it. And then the QRTR comes in at $875.
Wow.
So.
And it's about, well, really close to the same weight as the original carbon fiber.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think the original carbon fiber Evo was around 15 pounds. That was a few years ago.
So you save about $1,200 and only pick up an extra pound. That's not too bad at all. Okay, go ahead. Question.
How do you feel about bucket seats in a streetcar?
Well, it depends. It depends on the application technically. I'm okay with bucket seats in a streetcar as long as the factory belt is mounted correctly. That's really.
Yeah, and as far as driving around, if you're asking about that aspect of it, I switched out my original seats in my R35 to the older generation Evo carbon fibers, and in doing so, I went from a seat that could recline and do all this other stuff to a fixed seat with a fixed geometry, but I didn't feel I lost any comfort at all. It's fine to drive, long drives for me, but everybody has their own individual preference and stuff, and it may not be right for you if you have a 2-hour commute every day and a suspension that beats the heck out of you. Maybe it's not the right thing, but if you're looking for something you can put in your car, you can reduce some of the weight out of it. In fact, that was one of the surprising things when we did that. Even though back then those were $2,000 seats, the amount of weight we were able to reduce per dollar made those seats our best investment. If you want to look at the chart here, maybe we'll pop it up on screen for you guys. But as you see, the SPARCO carbon fiber seats, and what we did, they were a lot heavier than just the 15 pounds because we actually had a motorized bracket on it that allowed it to go forward and backwards. But even with that, it was only 30 pounds total. And you saw how much weight we saved. And it would have been even a better deal if we had the QRTs in there with the weight savings at the even lower cost. So one of the big benefits you can get, especially in a lot of these modern cars, the seats are tremendously heavy. They could be 100, 120 pounds each. So getting those out of there, putting in a set if you use standard brackets, you're looking at under 20 pounds, and you could save 200 pounds in your car just by replacing the seats in some cases.
Yeah. I think the seats in my M3 are around 75 pounds each. It's something ridiculous. So, yeah.
Pretty crazy. So, QRT technology plus carbon. How light can you get then?
That brings us to our new seat, the QRT-C, and this is our new carbon technology. So we're still using our pre-preg carbon, but we process the carbon a little differently, and that's how we're able to offer this full carbon seat at such a low cost. So this seat retails for $13.95.
Wow.
Yeah. The biggest advantage, though, is it only weighs 12.5 pounds.
12.5 pounds.
Yeah,
Wow.
for a large size seat. Now, keep in mind, large. So
Right. So this is actually a bigger seat than the Evo I had. That's
yes,
a medium.
Yeah.
Right?
So the
Okay.
Evo is considered a medium, and that fits up to a 34-inch waist. And so this will fit up to a 36-inch waist.
So you're able to drop the cost 30% on the carbon seat, and that's even a bigger one, and reduce the weight even further on it. So
yeah, it's pretty amazing. So this has been selling like crazy right now.
I would think so. I would think so. That sounds like a pretty good combination. Yes.
Where can I go to purchase one of these seats?
You can go into our website and purchase directly off of our website, or there's also a dealer list on our website that'll actually give you guys our dealers that actually have them in stock, and you can come into their store and actually try them out.
And maybe before we wrap up today, maybe what we'll end with is some of the measurements people can take on themselves, or things they can think about with your seat line to see if they can find something that fits them if they're not able to go in and sit in it.
Yeah, that's
physically.
pretty easy to do. Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
perfect. All right, and then by chance you guys got to make a really special seat. If you want to grab that one.
So this is going to be new for 2021. We're introducing the QRT-K, which stands for carbon Kevlar. So this is obviously you guys are familiar with the yellow and black look of the weave of a carbon Kevlar seat. We're really excited. I think it's just a good looking seat. Weight advantage, it's definitely lighter than the fiberglass, but it's about a pound heavier than the carbon fiber.
But is it bulletproof?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's funny. It's pretty exciting. I think bringing back an old school look of the carbon Kevlar, which we actually, the funny story on carbon Kevlar, why we're bringing it back is we're doing a full Martini line for 2021. And we were the original supplier to the Lancia 037, which is the championship winning rally car back in the Group B days. And with this line, we're actually recreating the original seat from that rally car. And that seat, we were the first to make it in carbon Kevlar.
Gotcha.
So we're bringing the seat back. We brought it up to the current FIA standards. And now that we have this material, we thought, hey, why don't we just put it into some of the most popular seats? And that's why the K exists now.
So the fact that, so what you're basically telling me is now you guys got new technology, you got new materials available. So those seats that I thought were state of the art I bought 10 years ago, or there's probably better stuff out there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we got a question out there.
Is there an extra large size?
Yes, actually there is. So if you go into our range, the Evo range itself is actually one of the only seats on the market that comes in 4 different sizes. So there's an Evo S, the standard Evo, which is considered the medium, Evo L, and the Evo XL. And the Evo XL can fit a 38-inch waist, no problem.
Okay.
So.
Yes.
Are these SPARCO seats only available in USA or also in Europe, especially Germany?
Yeah, they're definitely available in Europe and Germany since SPARCO is actually Italian. That's where our headquarters is. Yeah, for sure it's available.
How often do you get to go out there?
I usually go about 3-4 times a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how is the scene out there compared to the scene here with enthusiasts? I mean, I remember when I first went to Japan for Tokyo Auto Salon way back in the days, it was cool seeing how many people were into modifying their cars. It was more than we had in the U.S. But as far as Europe, I don't think I've spent enough time there to really see. Are there as big of an enthusiast group out there? Is there more? How is it out there compared to here?
It is. It depends on the country. So the problem in Italy, obviously it's a huge motor racing country. They love racing out there. And the problem with, let's just say, I hate to use the word the tuners or the performance guys, is that in Italy, the car's registration is based on horsepower. So if you have a high horsepower car, you're paying a lot to the government to register that car.
Gotcha.
So a lot of the guys there are running like Miatas and things like that that are lower horsepower, like, but are still fun to drive. So it depends. So the track day guys typically are anywhere from Miatas to Lotus Exiges, you know, things that aren't crazy in the horsepower world. But the car scene there is really cool because it's like a mix. I'm sure you've seen it all over Europe. There's kind of like, it's like European lowrider almost to say like that car show scene, you know what I mean? The funniest thing that I used to, what I like to see there, or what I've seen, is that the Golf GTI is like the Honda Civic of Europe. And there's like, you go to meets, you go to, we had this big event at the Monza F1 track, and they had a huge car crowd of just nothing but GTIs and Golfs and everything. It was like, oh, this is like the Honda of Italy. But yeah, it's a really cool scene. I mean, it's just done totally different, and it is different for every country almost. Like the scene is a little different. So in Germany, you've been to Germany, like TUV is crazy. So everything has to be certified. That's just kind of how it is. We're lucky being out here.
Yeah, definitely. Another question out there.
What's the benefit of having racing gloves and shoes?
It's actually just like the seat, and I forgot to touch on that. So the biggest advantage of a racing glove is feel. So it's consistent. So whether you're gripping one of our SPARCO wheels or your factory wheel, I always recommend gloves for track days, just because it's always consistent. You're not getting the sweaty hands. Yes, it may feel weird at first. I always have this trying to convince some guys that are really fast. They don't want to mess anything up. Like, I'm just used to it. No, wear the glove. You'll be more consistent. Same thing with shoes. A racing shoe is a really thin sole. So what you're going to get is a lot of pedal feel.
And they're a little bit narrower too, aren't they?
Yeah,
so you can heel toe better.
It's really made for like the open wheel cars where it's really small foot box. And of course, I'm just talking as a track day kind of enthusiast. But as a racer, it's fire retardant, so they're all Nomex, and it's basically for that.
Gotcha.
The one advantage I forgot to talk about was on a racing seat is that it's probably the best driver interface. If you're gonna do track days, I always recommend a seat as one of the first upgrades, because you'll know in your factory seat, you don't know it until you change out your seat. You're sliding around constantly. If you're held in by the seat, you really feel everything what the car's doing. So you feel the rotation, you feel when it's about to break away. It's really, really good feedback.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of feedback. I mean, there's really, three things that touch the driver interface with the driver, and that's the seat, the steering wheel, and the shifter if it's a manual car. So having a combination of that. I wish, I should have asked you to bring some steering wheels by and give us a little bit of it. I didn't think about it either. Get a little bit of an education on that. But let's see, do we have another question there, or should we tell you guys how you can kind of get, well, we got one?
Yeah, the different seat sizes.
Well, like I said, there's this QRT line is all considered a large size. So we consider large is up to a 36-inch waist. Again, I talked about earlier about the Evo line having 4 different sizes. We also have really popular seats like the Pro 2000, which we updated for this year. So a Pro 2000 is considered a medium seat because it fits up to a 34-inch waist. We also have the Grid Q, which is an in-between. It's like a medium-large seat. And that's the one that has the padding that's removable. So it's a great seat for guys that are doing endurance racing that need different drivers. So you can change the padding out to fit 2 different size drivers in the car.
Now, as far as seat features, I've seen seats with different designs to them. Where you've got the side, what is that called?
The halos,
the halos and stuff like that. Is there any general rules about types of seats and what you probably want for a certain application?
Not necessarily. We have seats that are really deeply bucketed, and those are okay for street use, but the reality is it's going to be a pain because getting in and out of it is just, there's a big bolster. That's why we designed the QRT model here to be a little bit lower in the front, so it's easier to get in and out of. We open the hips up a little bit more so that a normal size driver can fit. But what we've really done for this year and beyond is we're really conscious of the shoulder bolstering. So with a lot of the cars, you know, the applications being small, that's your limiting factor is typically your shoulder bolster. So
Because it's going to be hitting against the pillar
either
here?
the B pillar or
Gotcha.
anything that's going to be an obstruction. So what really excited about this model is that it's the only large seat to fit in an S2000. So
Oh,
this
really?
actually fits in an S2000, and you can close the doors, and it's really, really unheard of without having to pull the door panels off. So
Very good. Another question out there?
Yes, actually. What kind of rails fit these? Are they? Can you use buddy clubs or any other rails on the market?
Yeah, I believe so. We carry our own brackets, and our brackets, if you go to our website, they're a flat bracket, so you can typically either use it with a bottom mount seat or a side mount seat, like this application would be. And we offer side mounts as well. But and we have brackets for pretty much any popular car that's out there. I guarantee we have a bracket for it.
Now, when do you want to do a fixed mount, and when do you want a bracket so you can adjust it?
That's totally up to you. So if it's going to be a single driver, and it's the best because you can just direct mount it to our base. And that's the reason why on our 600 series base, we actually have extra metal on the sides. So you can do a direct mount, and you just figure out where you want it, you drill holes, and then you nut and bolt it. The biggest thing by doing that, you're going to save about an inch, because then the slider adds about an inch of height to it. Certain vehicles like my E90 M3, I have no problem running a slider. Certain vehicles like the S2000, you'd probably want to do it without the slider. It just depends.
Gotcha. Well, and the nice thing too, if you're considering, building a car and you have to put a roll cage in there, a roll bar or anything like that, and you're still going to drive it on the street, like I have a car or two like that. One of the nice things about going to an aftermarket seat that's designed with that in mind is everything here gets lower. So that bar that has to run across you can be made lower in the car. So getting in and out, although you would think it'd be the opposite, getting in and out actually becomes easier because you have some more space there. So let's talk about guys out there that are kind of interested, kind of thinking about fitment and stuff. What can they do? Is there any measurements they can give to you if they're not able to go to a place to actually test it, so they can, is it all just waist size, or is there more to it?
Well, it's both. Typically, if somebody calls SPARCO, and we're definitely there for all the help and tech questions you guys have, I usually ask three things. It's your waist size, your pants waist size, your height, and your weight. And that kind of gives me a general idea of how to size you. And that 3 dimensions works for everything, from sizing our suits to sizing seats. So, and all of us at SPARCO, and actually any of our distributors and dealers, are pretty knowledgeable on how to size somebody for seating. So,
very good. We have any other questions out there? Very good. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you learned something. I know I did. And we look forward to doing some more for you today and tomorrow to finish out DSPORT Live 2020. Thank you so much. And Alan, thank you so much for coming here.
thank you guys.